Welcome to TORAH Talk. I am your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with episode number 50, the golden episode of TNT, the Twisted New Testament, with Rabbi Stuart Federow from Houston, Texas. Welcome back. Welcome back, sir. It's always a delight and a pleasure to have your finger dance. Go ahead. Come on. Oh, yeah, you got the better mood going on. Everybody relies heavily on the finger dance each time we have a show.
Hey,
so.
That's important.
It is. It's mucho importante.
Finger dance keeps you moving.
Yes, it keeps the spirits
keeps you in the groove.
It does. I hope I'm hitting the wrong button. I mean the right button. There we go. Cool. All right, we're cool. Yeah, this is our 50th episode. Man, that's just really cool. Yep.
50th.
So, yeah.
Golden anniversary or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Then after that, there's platinum, and then after that, there's wood, because I'm a carpenter. So the 200th episode would have to be in, like...
If I were a carpenter...
Brazilian walnut.
And you were a lady...
I don't want to know the rest of that part.
You don't know that song?
I don't want to know the rest of that. I saw a T-shirt one time.
I'm so old. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, the only thing I didn't do, pardon me, is turn on the phone lines. I got to have the phone lines on. I was missing something here. Pardon me. Am I covering up your face? I am. Let me quit doing that. Hang on. I move my keyboard closer to me so I don't have to stretch so far. One of my legs on my keyboard was folded down, the other one was up, and I was typing, and that keyboard was flopping all over the place. Unbelievable. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm assuming now you are a professional at logging into the YouTube and finding the live stream.
Oh, yeah, what I do is I wait until I hear the music, and then, you know, the little... like half circle with the little arrows saying, you know, to what's the word? I forgot the word.
That's like refreshing
redo the URL.
Yeah. Refresh the screen.
Refresh the screen,
Gotcha.
and then you come up.
Nice.
Almost as soon as the music starts.
Cool. Well, you guys, I'm a little bit. I'm wearing all my work clothes. I'd just been working out in the shop for quite a while, and didn't really have time to switch out. So, anyway, so I hope you guys don't mind. It actually didn't look too bad. It's really funny is the shirt's dirtier in person than it looks on the TV. All these other white specks are like paint and glue and things like that. So, anyway, yeah, no one's going to care. Oh, man. Wow. You know, I had an ironic statement on... is it one that I posted?
Well, that's ironic.
You know, usually whenever I have an interesting comment of anything of concern or anything, I'll usually post it on Facebook, and we may have talked about it already last week.
Well, then let's not talk about it again.
Yeah, no,
just kidding.
Maybe, but it was really interesting because so many people think this. So this comment was it was on my testimony, right, from like 2 years ago that I did a full testimony on myself. Me as the host and me as the guest, and you know, me as the producer and the all the other stuff. So, but anyway, a concerned Christian, I would say more like it actually came across more not as a concerned Christian, but like a kind of like halfway snooty, I guess you could say. My brother's calling now. Let me put on my speakerphone. What's up, brother?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Hey, man, it's going good. Actually recording a show right now. You want to say hi to everybody?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hi, I hope you can hear me.
I'll give you a call back when we're done, okay, brother?
All right, brother.
Okay, love you, man. Bye. That dude's awesome. I love that guy. Okay, cool. What was I doing before he called? Oh, we were talking about the topic. So, on this YouTube comment, it said something to the regard. There was apparently somewhere in the middle of my 45-minute testimony. Apparently, I quoted or I talked about something about a verse I hadn't seen in the New Testament or hadn't paid attention to or whatever. And this guy says, hard to believe you actually studied the New Testament and you didn't even know of Luke 9:27 or whatever it was. And then he says, he said you can't even properly understand the Old Testament without knowing the New Testament first. And so, of course, I focused in on the latter part. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to defend myself on how much I've read the New Testament. I'll just leave that alone. But I did want to address his point, saying that you cannot understand the Old Testament without first understanding the New Testament. So that's kind of what I want to start off with until the phone rings. So how ridiculous is that?
Put the phone number up.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Man, you must be watching the show or something. Keeping me in check.
I am.
Bam! That was a B-A-M, by the way. Not, yeah.
Jamie, real quick.
Oh, yeah, I gotta
almost, many scholars believe that Luke was not, in fact, Jewish.
Oh.
Now, you're going to ask me what's the basis of that, and I got to tell you, I don't remember offhand. Sorry, I'm not much help there, but there's a lot of people who do, in fact, say that Luke was not a Jewish himself, and probably the only supposed author of the Gospels who wasn't. But for more information, I'd send you, to other places. I don't remember offhand the reasoning they give. Anyway, go ahead. So you had this guy make a comment about you have to know the Hebrew Scriptures through the eyes of Christianity.
Yes. You have to. No. He was more specific. He said there's no way you could understand the Old Testament. Of course, that's what he called it, the Old Testament,
right.
unless you understand the New Testament first.
Right.
And of course, my response to him was like, I'm sorry. I said, let me make something very clear. I said, that is like the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard. In fact, I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah, that's why I started laughing when you said it.
Okay, here it is right here. I just found it. I'm going to actually, let me just do this. I wonder if I can actually show this. I bet I can. Nah, I'll have to set up a whole new screenshot. I'll just read it to you. So it was on my testimony, and he says, William could hardly have studied much if by his own admission he had not come across Luke 19:27. First of all, I would never say I never came across it because I've read the New Testament like 30 times. So I would never have said I never came across it. So he may have misinterpreted. But anyway, the point being, until a few months before this video was made, he says, if you do not even know the New Testament, you will never be able to understand the Old Testament. And my reply was, let me be very clear on something. To say if you don't even know the New Testament, you'll never be able to understand the Old Testament is a very ridiculous statement. I said, even if I've only read the New Testament once, or even at all, but have only been studying the Hebrew Scriptures absolutely oppose the New Testament. So, with that said, that is short and sweet. Caller, welcome to the show. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from. Or not. It's your choice, really. Caller, can you hear us?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Very good. Welcome to the show. You are live on the air with Rabbi Stuart Federow and William. Do you have a question for us?
Yes, this is Shulamit from Florida, and I have gone to different events such as the Holocaust Memorial March, these type of things. Messianic Christians have come in, and they start whispering, the Lion of Judah, the Lion of Judah. Do you know the Lion of Judah? Then they start giggling and laughing. What are they referring to, and what is the joke, the Lion of Judah?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for something, and that is for properly identifying Messianics as Christians, not Messianic Jews. Messianic Christians, exactly what they are. And so my idea is this: if they're Messianic, Jesus has been titled the Lion of the tribe of Judah. So if they're saying Lion of Judah, they're basically saying Jesus, 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 or Yeshua, Yeshua, Yeshua. So if they're giggling and cutting up, it really makes me, just by saying that, I'm actually kind of wondering the level of their intellect at this point. But
well, it's also a response to, I know something you don't know. I know something you don't know.
Sarcasm.
I'm more intelligent than you. I'm more well-versed than you. I'm better and superior than you. And that's really what their humor is all about.
True. Yeah, very true.
That's why they're giggling.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, what was your response to them? Oh, she already hung up. Okay, cool. She got her answer.
Oh man, I wish she had hung up.
Yeah, no, me too. I was gonna ask her a couple questions. Okay, so anyway, carrying on.
By the way, I can't begin to tell you.
Yes.
How it pisses me off that first, that the Messianics have overtaken the marches, remembering the Holocaust, for the state of Israel, these kinds of things. And the Jewish community in response goes, "Oh, thank you for your help. I am just so happy to have you here," and thus help blur the lines between Jews and Christians and blur the lines, making it look as if Messianic quote-unquote Jews were actually Jews, because they'll use their acceptance at a Jewish function, even if it's a march, to remember the Holocaust or whatever, as a way of saying, "Look, we have the Jewish seal of approval because they even welcome us into their Jewish activities like a march to remember the Holocaust."
Right.
It just makes me very angry that the American Jewish community simply doesn't recognize the threat that it is facing. As a matter of fact, William, I don't know if you noticed this. I don't think it was this week. It may have been last week.
Which was?
Maybe last week. But there was somebody who was, I know what it was. Okay, this is somewhat political. Maybe you want to not discuss it or whatever. But, no, I can't remember the politician. Was accused of racism and anti-Semitism and all this, and his wife got on the microphone.
Well, I know Trump was actually accused of it.
And said, we're not anti-Semitic. Even our lawyer is Jewish. We have a lawyer who's a Jew.
That's got to be Trump, because
No, it wasn't Trump. It was somebody else who's a supporter of Trump.
Oh, well, he was actually accused of it, and of course we all know that Trump does have the same thing. His lawyer is Jewish. Probably at least a dozen or so of his direct employees that work for him are all Jewish. His daughter is married to a Jewish man. They had their son's bar mitzvah, so they're not
she converted to Orthodox Judaism. But the point is that this politician who is a supporter of Trump, I can't remember who it was offhand, was making a comment. I think you're right, Jacob. I think it was Roy Moore, the candidate in Alabama or Georgia, wherever it was. I think you're right. I think it's Roy Moore. Roy Moore's wife made a comment about we're not anti-Semitic because we have a Jew who's a lawyer. And it turns out that the Jew who's their lawyer is a Messianic Jew. And so, it's like people, the American Jewish community just does not realize the growing numbers of people who are, the vast numbers of people who are interested in converting the Jews out there.
Right.
And they're just in denial. They want us to just hold hands and sing Kumbaya and love each other, and they're just oblivious to the real threats that are out there.
Right. Okay, there's a question by Jamie Behun. I hope I said the name right. Rabbi, why does Matthew claim that John the Baptist is the reincarnation of Elijah? Eliyahu Hanavi.
Because Matthew look. In the order of Gospels as they were written, Mark is the first one to have been written. Then Matthew, then Luke, then John. And to go to your earlier question, Luke supposedly being one of the authors. Why do you take yourself off the screen? Every time you do that, you make me feel like I'm doing this alone.
Well, no, this is your expository.
At any rate, the point is that questions. The Jewish community would see, for example, they would see like Mark's text, and they'd have all these questions about Jesus that weren't answered in the Markan or the text of Mark. And so Matthew comes along. He knows the objections of the Jewish community, so he invents stuff to answer those objections, and he embeds those responses to the Jewish objection into the text of his gospel version. You follow that?
I do. Yes, sir.
Okay, so Jamie, to respond to your question, Matthew knows that Elijah the prophet, according to Jewish tradition, precedes the coming of the Messiah. So Matthew is going to invent the idea that John the Baptist was actually Elijah the prophet, so that he can say, see, Elijah the prophet came before Jesus because he was John the Baptist, and therefore we have the fulfillment of Malachi, last chapter, last paragraph, that the Elijah the prophet will precede the coming of the Messiah. Of course, if you take a look at the Gospel of John, which is a later volume, and he asks, in the text, they ask John the Baptist, "Are you Elijah?" And John the Baptist says, "No, I'm not." Well, don't you think that if John the Baptist was a reincarnation of Elijah,
he would have known about it.
Especially for the purposes of fulfilling Scripture to make it where Jesus becomes the true Messiah. Don't you think he would know that much?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic point.
But Matthew invents the idea that John the Baptist was Elijah the prophet because he's got to answer the question, if Jesus is the Messiah, then who therefore was Elijah the prophet? Because we know Elijah the prophet precedes the coming of the great and terrible day of the eternal.
Right.
So there's your answer.
All right, next question. Looks like, whoops, hold on, I hit the wrong space bar. Okay, the next question was, this says, William, I have a question. This is from Message on a Necklace. That's unique instead of message in a bottle. I have a question for you as an ex-Christian. Why do Christians get so viciously angry when they are questioned or challenged with verses from the Tanakh? I think you would probably be better off answering that one. I mean, I'll answer along with you.
No, it's asking you.
I know, but I mean, you deal
William,
with... Okay.
This is both of us, not just me.
Okay, so... Okay, so here's my take on it. First, I'll have to explain that every time I visit with a Christian, whether it's something they started or maybe something I triggered, whatever the case may be, the very first thing they will do is they will try to reason with me right off the bat, if they know that I don't agree with them, with the basic New Testament New Testament understanding of the Hebrew Scriptures. But the problem is the ones that they cling to are the easiest ones to debunk. And so the moment I start with the first one, sometimes they'll go for a second one. When I debunk that one, all of a sudden the gloves come off. First thing that they do before they start getting irritated is that they will start saying, well, I don't really care because I had an experience. I experienced this flood of emotion and I was teary, and all of a sudden I quit smoking and all this other stuff. And so for them, it's about the emotion, not about what the scripture. In fact, the scripture is not even important. I would go as far as to say to just about, not everyone, but I would say easily 75 to 80% of all Christians could care less about what the Old Testament says. All they know is the experience they had. Very few people become Christians, even as a young child raised in a Christian household. When they first make that decision, they're either Christian because that's all they've known, because their parents, or they never knew it and then had an emotional experience. It's never some guy out on an island reading the New Testament, Old Testament combined and has this revelation, oh my God, Jesus is the Messiah. It doesn't happen that way. It never has, it never will. So,
exactly.
And that's what infuriates them so much, is because they don't have a leg to stand on and they're not willing to, it's kind of like this. One way I'd like to explain it, and callers, sit tight, don't hang up. We'll be right with you, so just hang on.
And I want to interject something too.
Okay. One of the best comparisons I can think of with Christians with their Jesus figure is the same way as it would be like a husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, where the boyfriend's cheating on the girlfriend, her girlfriend's try to tell her he's cheating on you, and she's like, I don't believe it. Nope, I don't care. Pictures? Nope, that's got to be photoshopped. They are so connected emotionally with this figure, they don't want to give it up no matter what. How many times have you heard on the news wives returning to their abusive husbands because there's an emotional lock there they can't get rid of? That's the biggest struggle that you have. And so the people who get furious with you, they know they don't have a leg to stand on. And the thing about it is, anytime you go, even if it's not religion, anytime you go to someone else with an alternate view, you're implying that they're wrong to some degree, which is why you have your own view. That pisses them off. They don't want to admit that they're wrong. Most of the people who will flat out argue with you day and night are the uneducated ones. The ones who are smart, they walk away from you. To prove my point, I've talked with 2 or 3 pastors over the past 2 or 3 years, and our conversations never go very far. They will change the subject to keep the peace. The ones who will fight with you are the ones who are the emotional ones, the ones who are young in their faith, or they're like this overzealous, got to save the world people. And that's
or they themselves have been saved from something terrible like a drug addiction, and they're switching their heroin for their Jesus.
One
drug addiction to another,
and that's huge. That's huge. Rabbi, before we take the caller, what was your interjection?
Just real quickly, Michael and Keep His Holy Sabbath. Michael Faircloth and Keep His Holy Sabbath basically said the same thing, correcting me. Okay, because I misspoke, and I tend to do that a lot. But Michael says John the Baptist could not be be a reincarnation of Elijah because Elijah never died. True. I said reincarnation. It's not what I meant.
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
Furthermore, Keep His Holy Sabbath asks, will Elijah actually be Elijah? Won't that cause a huge awakening to truth? You're absolutely correct. Elijah is supposed to come back preceding the day of the terror. I said it before, now I can't even quote it. The terrible day of the whatever, and he's supposed to precede the coming of the Messiah, the real Elijah, not somebody they can point to and say, "Oh, he must be Elijah," like they did with like they did with John the Baptist. And if it's really truly Elijah, you would think he'd be able to prove he's really Elijah, and yes, that would begin the whole awakening to the real Messiah. So you're both totally correct, and I misspoke. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, cool. Let's take this caller. Caller, welcome to the show. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from. In 20 seconds.
Still there? I hope we didn't lose him just
because
we kept...
it's connected. What they'll do is they'll lay the phone down and they'll be watching the video, not realizing that they're not in sync.
Yeah, so 30 seconds offline.
Yeah. Hey, there it is. 20 seconds later, just like I called it. Hello, welcome to the show. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from.
Oh, my name's Tony, and I'm calling from Mississippi.
Hi, Tony from Mississippi. Welcome to Texas.
I used to be in Greenville, Mississippi.
Thank you. My question tonight is, I know throughout the Bible that, God says and the prophets say, who is there another God that can do as the God says, right?
That can do, say that last part of it again.
Who?
Okay. I don't know the specific verses, but throughout the Bible, the questions who is there another God that can do this?
Oh, yeah.
Right. In other words, they're rhetorical questions that really don't have an answer. They're just rhetorical, and the answer is no. There's nobody like God.
So based on that, what is your question?
Okay. So what I'm getting at is, for all these people that believe in Jesus and Allah and all the rest, they are their gods, right? I mean...
Right. They are their elevated ones.
So,
correct.
Well, wait a minute.
They're
I'm not
very
sure.
much real to people is what I'm getting at. So...
Okay.
William,
I don't really know how to
repeat what she said because I didn't hear what she said.
Okay. Apparently my volumes are kind of imbalanced, so Tony, give me 1 second. So, Tony, you're saying that even though somebody might believe in Buddha, and we don't, Buddha is still their God. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Like these people have claimed that these gods appear to them, and throughout the Bible they're saying there are no other gods, but apparently they are real to these people.
Right.
So what would you refer to them as?
Fake gods. False gods, idols, idolatry.
Well, I mean, the Torah says, don't have any other gods before me. So even the Torah admits that humans can make gods for themselves. But they are gods. It's a very
interesting way that's worded too.
But lowercase.
Even if you think they're gods, you don't have these gods before God.
Right.
You may think they're gods, but even if you think they're gods, you don't have these other gods before God.
Right.
It's an interesting way it's worded. God is number one,
right,
and indivisible and distinct.
Right, I agree.
Tony, does that answer your question completely, or are we still kind of shady on something?
I honestly can't tell you because I can barely hear. I don't know what's going on with the phones, but
okay,
same thing on this
y'all
side
are talking
too.
In a barrel.
Oh, Rabbi, you said there's something on your side also? Oh, you know what?
I can hear her, but it's not distinct.
Interesting.
Sorry.
Okay, so it must be on my soundboard. I've been noticing some ticks lately on my soundboard, like the leak I was telling you about earlier, Rabbi. So I may have to get a new soundboard. This thing's pretty old. So, okay. Well, Tony. So basically, Tony, can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you better. Yes.
Okay. So basically, saying even though people make gods for themselves, they're fake gods. Basically, they're
exactly.
They're not actually the real God, but Hashem, in his wisdom, knows that we can make gods for ourselves out of anything we want. But as far as he's concerned, they're fake. But to us, he knows that they're real because they lead us away from him and they lead us into false worship. So are they real? Are they fake? It almost doesn't matter. They're different. That's the key.
They're not God.
They're not God.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I understand,
Tony,
like praying to the cross or something like that.
Sure.
That's made out of a piece of mass, but these spiritual things that these people experience, as far as having people appear to them and believing in these other spirits as their gods.
Right.
Wouldn't you say that was competing with the real God?
That's the point.
Yeah.
And the Bible says there are no other
competition.
It's adultery. It's spiritual adultery. So yeah, they're competing. They're interfering. And so that's where the problem lies, for sure.
So where does
Tony,
these,
Rabbi,
Rabbi,
I have to ask you a question, Tony.
Hey, Rabbi, hang on. Rabbi, hang on one second. Tony, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What were you saying? Because actually, you can't hear Rabbi very well, and he can't hear you, and he may even have a hard time hearing me a little bit. So you started talking, and then I kind of jumped in to try to kind of balance out the soundboard some. So what was your last statement you were going to say?
I was saying that I believe in the real God,
Sure.
But these people that experience these things as a spiritual thing, where are they coming from if they're not real? Because it's very real to them.
Okay, Rabbi, did you hear what she said?
Yes, I did.
Now,
and here's my response.
Okay,
and we've talked about this before in other ways, but not so much like this.
Okay, Rabbi, hold on before you go, because she can't hear you very well. So I'm going to let her, because I think that's her main question.
Before you let her go, I want to know where in Mississippi.
Oh, where in Mississippi are you, Tony? Rabbi has spent some time there.
Yes, I'm in central Mississippi in Tallahatchie.
Okay,
I was in Greenville. Tell her I was in Greenville for 5 years.
Oh, he was in Greenville for 5 years.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, why don't you go ahead? So why don't you go ahead and hang up, Tony, and that way you can actually hear the answer really loud and clear on your computer, okay? And you won't miss anything because there's about a 20-second delay, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so Rabbi, you first. I'm going to follow up with my version of it as well. And so tell everybody if they're not real, how come they're experiencing these things?
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
How does a superstition come into existence? A superstition comes into existence because it works.
Okay.
This guy comes along and he sees a man going like this. He's going like this. He keeps pumping his arm like this. The guy comes up to him and says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm keeping the elephants away." And the guy says, "What are you talking about? That doesn't keep the elephants away." And the guy says, "Oh yeah? Have you seen any elephants?"
Right. That's a good.
In other words, a superstition is making two things as if they are connected when they are not connected.
Right.
Trying to see a relationship where there isn't a relationship. Okay. The problem is that, I don't want to sound like Jonah, who did not want to help the people of Nineveh.
Okay.
But the problem is that God helps everybody. Okay. For whatever his reasons are, God helps everybody.
Agreed.
And our God, the Jewish idea of God, the Hebrew Scriptures God, is not so petty and small that if you don't use the right name for him, he won't answer your prayers. Like Christians say, "Oh, you got to use Jesus' name or he won't answer your prayer." Our God isn't that petty and small. So they think when they pray to their Buddha or whatever and they get their prayer answered, they think it's their Buddha, like a superstition, something that's not related, they think is related.
Okay.
Okay, and so our God, being righteous, and for whatever God's reasons are, will, for whatever his reasons, grant the prayers of whoever's praying. Whether it's the right belief system, the right religion, the right name of God, the right God, whatever, there are times where, for his purposes, he will answer their prayers positively. So these people will think it's their God doing the work, and that's why they'll continue believing it. I've had people tell me, you know, they know everything I'm saying, they understand exactly the objections of Judaism, they agree with the objections of Judaism, but their Jesus, pick something, save them from heroin. Their Jesus, you know, their eye got put out and they prayed to their Jesus and their eyesight came back when every doctor said it would never come back. Right. Which actually happened to a friend of mine. And over time, he finally figured out, you know, it wasn't Jesus, it was God who did it. And I may have thought it was Jesus, but it wasn't.
Right, right.
Right. But that's what happens with these other religions. And it's not just religions, it's superstition. It's other belief systems that, you know, astrology, okay, or getting your palm read or whatever. You know, the person doing it will hit enough things that sound right and give you a prediction that is highly likely to come true. You will meet a dark stranger. That could be anybody. That could be the guy who fixes your TV set. Okay.
Right. Could be a black dog on a stray dog in the neighborhood.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I mean, literally.
And they'll say, "Oh, look, it's true."
Right.
And that's in my opinion, that's what's going on.
Gotcha. Okay, now to agree with you completely, what I'm going to say is regarding God answering the prayers, Hashem's answering them regardless who they're praying to. To give you a practical example of that would be like me walking out of my house. Now, Chash v'shalom, I'm not saying I'm God, but you get the point. Use me as a metaphor. As let's say that I'm God in this whole realm, right? The neighbors down the street, they don't follow my rules. They don't follow the rules of our house that my kids follow. So that would be like the Christians, the Islam, Buddhists, doesn't matter whoever it is. Let's just say that they're the other religions. If I'm around and I hear one of their kids screaming because they fell off their bike or somebody got hit by a car or whatever the case may be, I'm going running. I don't care if they call me or not. So, just out of my compassion. And if I hear them screaming, please help me, they may be calling for their own daddy, calling Raul or whatever the case may be. Well, William showed up, right? I don't care. I'm a compassionate person. If I see somebody... Now, here's the thing. God created all humanity. He loves everyone. And if he hears somebody in distress... He may answer regardless who you're praying to. And that's exactly what Rabbi is saying. They may think it's Jesus who answered the prayer, but that doesn't mean it's Jesus who answered the prayers, right? So, in addition to that, to really answer and address another point of Tony's question was they say, well, they experience these things. It's real, and that's what makes them believe in it. Okay, so here's the thing. I have people tell me all the time, William, the only reason you turned your back on Christ is because you really never experienced the fullness of Christ. Let me tell you something. I have seen within the churches that I've been to, a lot of people don't even know that I used to be Christian. They think I'm just a Jewish guy. I was raised Christian. My grandfather, my great-grandfather, my Uncle John, my dad, they were all preachers. Okay, I was not only raised in, I was taught very well the New Testament. So it's not like I'm naive to it. Okay. I have spoken in tongues, and even today, I can tell you right now, it was a very real experience. I will also tell you today that it was not from God. Okay? I didn't know it then, but I'm telling you now, it was not a godly event. It was something really wrong with that whole thing, but it happened. Okay? So just because you experienced something supernatural doesn't mean that it came from God. So stuff does happen. No joke. In fact, if you really want to get really curious, go to YouTube and type in Kundalini. It's just as Kundalini, the Kundalini spirit. Just see all the stuff that comes up and watch a few of those videos. You have the power within you to generate things. The day that I spoke in tongues, man, I was driving. We went to a meeting. Let me answer this. Caller, if you hang up, you'll lose your place on the line, so don't hang up, okay? So just sit tight. I'll be with you in just a minute. So I actually... I was crying because I was really upset. I was a very dedicated Christian. I was witnessing to people on a daily basis. I went to this leadership meeting with the leaders of our church. This guy, Donald Strum, I think Don Strum or whatever, had come to. He was came from Africa, and he was full of the Spirit. And he was speaking in tongues. He had the power of prayer and prophecy. And so we had this massive meeting at this hotel, and everybody had spoken in tongues, but me, I'd never done it before. And I was really upset about this. I was like, man. So the whole way there, I was like praying. I was like emotionally torn up. On the way back, it was like a 20 so mile drive. On the way back, I was crying, and I even pulled off to the side of the road on Palmer Lane in Austin, between Pflugerville and Round Rock, and pulled off the side of the road, went outside just because I was trying to show God I was serious, and I was not prideful. I was humble. I don't care who's watching. I'll do whatever. I was out on the shoulder of the road, about 20 feet in front of my car, traffic passing, and I was on my knees with my hands in the air, and I was crying out to God, and it's like nothing happened. And so I got back in my car, and I started driving, and I was just really just emotionally ripped, man. And then all of a sudden, I started speaking in tongues, and it was so dramatic. Once I started, I couldn't stop. I tried to stop. I actually started to get to where my body was convulsing, and I couldn't actually control it. And eventually I made it to a payphone because I couldn't drive very well. And I called the church where I was going to, and I called this guy, Alan, who was a youth pastor, and he couldn't get nothing out of me because all I was doing was jibber jabber, and because I couldn't talk English all of a sudden, and I was wanting him to come get me. So I finally made it all the way up to the church. But this went on for like 45 minutes, and my body was so tired. I got pulled into the church parking lot. They came out and they saw me. Actually, I couldn't even get... Once I was there, I was so just drained. It's like, the car kind of like hopped up on the curb on the sidewalk. They came out to the car and actually carried me into the pastor's office, and I laid there for another half an hour until I finally was able to calm down. So I know the stuff is real, but it doesn't mean that it's from God. That's the main point here. So people believe in stuff, it happens. I've heard stories of people using the Ouija board, right? And that stuff's real, man. I've heard stories of people, this thing moving on their own. It's real. Doesn't mean it's from God. Point blank. That's the point of the story. Just because you feel something does not mean it's from God. I went to a concert one time, Rabbi. This is like, I'd already been going to church for 15 years, and praise and worship, I was always in the front, and I was so emotional every time. I was like, yes, thank you, God, right? Well, I went to this is kind of interesting. So I went to a concert one time, and I heard a song at this concert that struck some memories for me when I was in high school. This is after I was Christian for a long time. And I have to tell you something. Something happened at that concert. It was not a Christian concert. It was a rock and roll concert. But something happened at that concert when I heard the song, and it triggered some emotions. It triggered some memories. The exact same emotions I had at church, I experienced right there at that concert, and God was not
part of it.
So, again, we have the power in our brain of creation. God created us in His image. He created things by speaking things into existence. We can create scenarios in our heart, in our mind, strong things using our words, using our thoughts, meditating on something. Man, you can do some crazy good stuff or crazy bad stuff just by meditating on things. People who go out and murder people do it because they sit and meditate on all this negativity to the point to where it drives them insane. You have the power in your brain to do many, many things. So just because you experience it doesn't mean it's from God. That's the whole point. Deuteronomy 13, 1 through 5. If somebody comes, if a prophet arises among you and he says all this stuff or performs this miracle, whatever, and this miracle or sign or wonder comes to pass, but he leads you away from Torah, don't trust him. He deserves to die. God confessed that. New Testament says the same thing. New Testament says, the people came to Jesus and said, these guys are doing all these signs and wonders and all this other stuff, but they don't follow after us. He was like, leave them alone. He said, whatever the case may be. So even Jesus said the same thing, right? So just because it's a supernatural event does not mean it's for God. That's the point.
All right, I'm going to ask the caller to continue holding for just a couple of minutes more, because Tony Boykin has a follow-up question, and there's another question further down that relates to it. Okay, Tony asked the following. Then I am really confused. If God is answering prayers of people that believe in other gods, if that's the case, then what does it matter what God people believe in?
I think that may be the Tony. First of all,
are you telling me that the only thing that counts is getting your prayers answered?
No, I think this is the caller. I think this is the Tony that actually called in more than likely.
So do I. I think it is too. And I understand her confusion based on what I said.
I don't think that's what she's saying, though.
No, it's exactly what I'm reading it right out. It says, I'm really confused. If God is answering prayers of people that believe in other gods, then what does it matter what God you believe in? Because God, the real God, will give you an answer.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right.
And my point is that that's not the only reason why we believe in a God. It's not why we believe in God.
It's not why we serve God.
Okay, it's not why we serve God. We don't serve God because He answers our prayers. Okay, and again, there's this underlying belief that, look, God cares what the Jews believe in. God doesn't want the Jews to be like everybody else. Okay, we are set apart people.
Right.
Okay, Judaism would love to have the world become Jews, but we don't go out seeking converts. You know, if we thought it was important that they believed in our God, we would. Okay, we'd prefer it'd be nice that the whole world had Jewish values. We wouldn't be, kicked around so much.
Right.
Okay, and I think there's actually a case to be made in the modern world for the Jews becoming missionaries. And frankly, that's what I believe we should be. But my point is that there's people want the truth. Mm-hmm. They want the true God. They don't want a fake God, even if it's the real God who gives them on occasion an answer to their prayers. They want to know that the God they serve, that the God they're relating to, is God. Okay? I want to feel good. Now, I could take aspirin or I could take heroin. But if heroin makes me feel better, why should I bother with aspirin? Well, for one thing, heroin's not always good for you.
Right.
Okay? Aspirin's not always good for you either. You can take 450 aspirin, you're gonna have a problem. Okay, but you still want the better stuff. You want the right stuff. You want the true stuff. You don't want the fake stuff, even if it appears to you that you're getting what you want. Isn't there more to life and more to our spiritual needs than just to get...
Think about what Rabbi is saying along with relationships with your spouse. Are you with your husband or wife just because they buy you things? Or they give you things? Or are you with them because y'all have a cultivating relationship? Now, more importantly, with Hashem, we're with him because he has proven himself to be the creator of the universe, and he's given us laws that we follow, and we have agreed to this as a marriage covenant. Okay, so it's same with kids. I mean, if I find out my kid is only being nice to me because I buy him things, we're going to have problems. That's all I got to say about that. Now, Rabbi, somebody said something here. Boykin Tony. Oh, this is Tony. I guess.
Right.
Was that the same one? Okay. She said, William, how would you know if it's from God? I'll give you an example. Tongues, first, or anything, for example. If I can find it in the Torah and it doesn't violate the Tanakh, then I can say it's possibly from God. But there's more to it than that, though. I mean, there's a lot of things to consider. I know that tongues wasn't from God because, number one, it led me further away from the Torah, for one thing. So I know for a fact that wasn't from God. But also, can you find an example in the Torah where people practice speaking in tongues? And the answer is no. So, so the simplest way, and here's another thing too, people ask me all the time, Rabbi, how do I know if it's God speaking with me, right? And I'm saying, well, the very first thing you need to do, you need to confirm it with Tanakh. If you haven't studied Tanakh, you need to talk to somebody who has, tell them what you think God showed you and let them tell you.
Don't you think it's funny that Christianity also says that the Hebrew Scriptures are true? But we have a veil before our minds that can't see what's really there.
2 Timothy, right? Doesn't it say that all Scripture is good and for correction and for edification? Well, what Scripture do you think they had back then? It was the Old Testament. And if the New Testament says it was true, then it's
our
good
blindness
for correction.
That doesn't allow us to see the truth there.
Exactly, right.
So, but everybody says it's true, but how do you know what's correct if you don't know what's true? You have to study the Tanakh first. Okay, and by the way, Jamie Behan, Rabbi is speaking in tongues and drinking poison and not dying and handling poison snakes and not dying. Is that biblical? No, it's not biblical. It's from the New Testament. And the New Testament's not part of the Bible. The New Testament is the Christian appendix to the Bible. It's a Christian addition to the Bible. The Bible is what they call the Old Testament, which is an insult because we don't believe in a New Testament.
True. That's funny. That's very true. It's not the Old Testament. It's the Hebrew Scriptures. The only reason it's called the Old Testament is because people came in.
The Old Testament, they're insulting our religion.
Absolutely.
They're insulting God. But the point is that, no, it's not biblical. It's Christian.
Right. Okay, just how do I defend the real God to Christians? This is Tony again. I love Tony's questions. She's coming up with some really big grand slams.
And they're very important questions, too, because you want to know that the God you serve, the God you believe in, the God you pray to, the God who is very real, is the real God.
Okay, let me address this question she just posted. It's another great question. Now, Tony, listen to me very carefully. Here's your question for those who aren't watching chat. Said it's not about that. Just how do I defend the real God to Christian friends if they are receiving, or they say they're receiving, that was my addition, answers from God believing in Jesus. Now here's the thing, Tony. If you don't know the Tanakh, if you haven't studied it and you don't know it fairly well, cover to cover, meaning no New Testament, right? Then you're not going to be able to answer them anyway. Okay, so just like, so if they're saying, well, God showed me this, right? Like, for example, somebody showed me one time. It said, you know, the God showed me that this at the time there was a contextual base difference, but I had two friends. They were both Christian. One of them says the Holy Spirit showed them that they could eat anything they want and it's okay. Of course, now I know it's okay. But the other Christian says, no, the Holy Spirit showed me that you can't eat that stuff. I'm like, really? Do y'all have two different Holy Spirits? Right. The point being, you know, don't forget about what you've heard. Forget about the dream you had, the vision you had. Compare it. Don't forget about it, but take that and compare it. Everything has got to be compared with Tanakh. That's the whole point. And if you don't know how to, call somebody who does.
William, Rabbi Tovia Singer has an absolutely marvelous analogy to this. He tells the story of how he met an FBI agent. I'm sorry, I said FBI. I meant Secret Service who does, fake money.
Oh, yeah. I know the story. Right, go ahead. Tell it. This is good. Y'all pay attention.
You can remember it better than I can. But the guy says, we don't study fake money. We study the real money so that we know a fake when we see the fake, because we know what real is supposed to be. So you study the Tanakh, which is from God. Okay, you study Torah, which is from God, so when somebody shows you something that's not from God... By the way, can I show you something, Tony, that you're also doing, and that is you're getting really stuck on this magic stuff.
That's
on
true.
This, this kind of stuff. Okay, the speaking in tongues and all this other... What about the belief system that is supposed to support it?
Well, now let me jump in just for a second. I'm not going to derail you. I'm going to add to what you're talking about.
No, go ahead. Even if you derail me, I don't care. This is a conversation.
Okay, remember? So I think that Tony, maybe in her mind, in her own system, like forgetting all of her Christian friends in her own system, that's not what she's focused on. What she's focused on is, just like I am, most of the experiences I have with other Christians, they're the ones who are focused on all the magic and all the woo stuff, not me. And I think Tony's in the same boat. I think she's not focused on that, but how do you debunk? Like let's say her mom comes up to her and say, "Tony, I'm sorry, you're wrong. I saw a vision of Jesus behind my couch one day. I was crying out and I laid down on the floor and I saw this vision of Jesus and he told me everything was going to be okay. And next thing you know, such and such happened and everything was okay." So the Christians that we all experience, they're the ones who are focused on all the yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of where Tony's coming from. I could be wrong.
I think you're right. Totally right.
Okay, so using that, how is the best way for someone? You tell me. Let's act like that's my question, Rabbi. I've heard so many stories. Of course, I have. I mean, with the TORAH Talk, I mean, it's just flooded with emails and with Facebook messages all the time, and especially combative ones from Christians and saying, "William, you're wrong. Yep. I know better." Right? How do you approach someone who is a Christian who doesn't know what you know, who doesn't know what I know, and all they know are the experiences they had were so dynamic, they were so real to them? What can you do? Is there anything you can do?
I'm sorry, but I don't think there's anything you can do.
I don't either.
I don't think you're going to be able to reach them at all because they're going to be
I totally agree.
Blinded by their personal experiences.
Completely
They're
agree.
very real to them, just like the speaking in tongues was very real to you. You're not going to be able to get through that.
Right.
Because you're trying to fight emotion with reasoning and logic. Mm-hmm. Emotion has no reason to it. Emotion has no logic to it.
Agreed.
Just think about who we fall in love with.
Yeah. And so to conclude what you just said, Tony and anybody else who's out there, there's a reason why Jews don't proselytize. They're the light to the nations, and they are a light. Just simply, if you think about what a light is, okay, being a light to the nations doesn't mean going knocking on doors. Okay, if you go knocking on the door, let's just say a literal light, right? Let's say that you're supposed to be the literal light. You got a big 10 million candle power spotlight, and you're supposed to be the light to illuminate it. What happens if you take that light and shine it directly in somebody's face? That's what happens when you're door knocking. You're going to blind them, you're going to piss them off, and they're never going to want to talk to you again. That's not what being a light is. Being a light is you do your thing in your own world. People will see what you're doing. They will come to you asking questions. That's what being a light is. Now, if you don't answer the questions, then you're not being a light. Being a light means answering questions, not going door knocking and trying to tell them they're wrong. Wait for them to come to you, because if they're asking questions, they're curious, which means they've already been asking questions.
And then you give them the straight answers.
Absolutely, and you don't hammer it in. If you sense that they're not receptive, if you sense that they've experienced Jesus on a first-hand basis and they actually shook his hand, they poke their fingers in his flesh, you need to walk away from that. Don't argue with them. Just say, "Hey, cool, no worries. I'm not gonna. That's good." Move to the next person. If you are so flooded with Christians around you that they're constantly at your throat, then you need to either move, find some new friends, or look for the ones who are actually genuinely asking questions. The ones who are not, you are spinning your wheels. Like Rabbi said, there is no way that you're going to be able to move somebody who had an emotional experience that changed their life forever. Not until they've studied enough to where they start asking questions. It's just like picking, when you plant fruit or vegetables in the ground, you can't go dig it up before it's ready because you're wasting your time. End of story.
Right. All right, but I'm looking at some things on the live chat on YouTube. I think we got somebody waiting on the phone. I hope they'll just...
Oh, my gosh. Thank you. Oh, wow. Thank you. Caller, more than anything else, thank you for hanging in there.
I hope we come back to the live chat, though, but go ahead.
Hey, caller, before I will tell you this, though. 17 minutes isn't too bad. The longest call I've had waiting on Rabbi Singer was almost 50 minutes, and this caller was, like, dedicated. I was like, wow, he's in for the long haul.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So caller...
It's your way of telling me I'm too wordy.
No, I was the one doing most of the talking. It wasn't you. It was me. Man, that's
this time.
Okay, caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, it's me, Brock, from Southeast Missouri, and I guess we all need to learn patience once in a while, don't we?
Okay, first of all, it's Brock. So now we know why he held on, because he's used to Rabbi Singer. And he's used to us, too, so he knows the routine. So, Brock, thank you for hanging in there. What's the question for the show tonight?
I actually have a quick question for you, William, and then two questions for the rabbi, if that's all right.
Okay, let me write them down. Go ahead.
Quick question for you. What's the name of the song you play at the end of every episode?
Actually, that's not me. That's Rabbi Singer. When you see it, when you watch, and this is for everybody, when you see one of the TORAH Talk Tovia Singer videos, but there's only one question in the entire video, that is a module that Rabbi makes, and he puts his own song that he has at the end of that one. Any of my videos, the same song is at the beginning and the end. If you see a different song at the end, that's because that's Rabbi Singer's module. Now, that song is by the same group. It is the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, and the finger dance does not. You have to pay extra for that. And it's the song Rabbi plays at the end is actually called Adon Olam, right? So, but the one I play, I have no... In fact, this song here, this is not the one you're asking about. Am I correct?
What's the one that played the episode of Rabbi?
Yeah. So that one's called Adon Olam. Adon Olam. Am I saying that right, Rabbi?
Yes, Master of the Universe.
Okay, so here's what you can do. Actually, I can't. So just know that that's what it's called. Is by the IDF. Look it up online. I would say send me an email. I'll try to email it to you, but then I'm going to have like 100 emails, and I cannot send like hundreds of emails out for people who want that song. So look it up. If you can't find it, send me a Facebook message. Are you on Facebook, right?
Right.
Brock, are you on Facebook?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Are we friends on Facebook?
I don't just think I sent a request to the rabbi, and I think I'll try to send one to you as well.
Okay, please do. Okay, go ahead and ask Rabbi his 2 questions.
All right, my 2 questions is the first one I had asked the rabbi about before if I can go to a church once a year like my grandpa requested. He said no. It's not, but there's a church that does blood drives once in a while. I was wondering if it's for a blood drive and not for service, can I go do that?
Okay, let me do this. Hold on, don't say anything just yet. Let me write this down. I'm just going to put a couple examples in here. I'm going to say for a funeral or a blood drive, right? Okay, just a minute. Funeral, just for extreme reasons. Okay, and then.
And what did he say that he was? What answer he was already given, William? I got to tell you. The answer is choppy. He comes in and comes out, comes in and comes out.
Yeah, actually, I heard that too. I think that may be his signal because I'm here. With Tony, I could hear her clearly, but with him, I can't. So, Brock, you don't have me on speakerphone, do you, Brock?
Oh, sorry, I was.
Can you take it off speakerphone and see if that might improve the call quality?
Yeah, because I couldn't hear or understand his question. His first one for me at all.
Okay, go ahead, Brock. Tell me the second question.
Yeah, the second one actually comes from chat. Is the God of the Islam faith, Christian faith, and Jewish faith the same?
Oh, wait, they're asking if they're all 3 the same?
If they're all the same God.
Actually, the same. Okay, actually, I saw a different question regarding your contact with the general point. I saw a comment earlier, and do me a favor, Brock, hang on 1 second, don't hang up. Somebody asked a question earlier, and there's so many questions. In fact, I think we've got the most watchers tonight that we've had live, like in the history.
We had over 50 before.
Look at this. This is episode 50, and we have 50 watching right now. That is.
We had over 50. We had like 55. But
did we? Okay, cool. So 50-50 is good. So the one I saw earlier had something to do with Islam. I wish I could find it because I know I'm going to misquote it. Let me just scan just for a second, maybe about 10 seconds. Let me see if I can find this real fast, because if I can, that will certainly help refine your question that you're asking, Brock. In fact, it may even be the same question, but I must have misunderstood it. And it did have to do with...
could he clarify his first question for me, though,
okay,
please?
His first question was this. Can I go... Now, he already asked the question once, and the answer was given was no. It may have been by another rabbi, maybe Rabbi Singer, whatever the case may be. Can I go to church even once a year for like a blood drive or for a funeral? I'm putting the funeral as another possibility. Yes.
Can I clarify the question?
Certainly.
I had originally asked Rabbi Federow once, because my grandfather had asked if I go to church once a year for him after he passed. That's not my question tonight. My question tonight is
for blood drive.
There's a church that does blood drives every few months. If it's not for a service, am I allowed to go to donate blood for a blood drive? If that's the only area doing it for a blood drive.
Gotcha. Okay, so Rabbi, did you hear him?
I did.
Good.
And my answer is Pikuach Nefesh Dochei Hakol, the saving of life oversees everything. And even though idolatry is one of the things you're not supposed to follow in the pursuit of saving life, you're not doing idolatry just because you're going to get to give your blood.
Right, but listen,
you're saving life by giving your blood.
Let me refine that question.
Okay.
If they're doing the blood drive in the sanctuary and there's statues and there's like of the cross of Jesus, I mean, chances are most churches wouldn't
call me a liberal. Okay, so get mad at me for being a liberal, but to me, giving blood is such a necessity that.
But it's not an obligation. Because
it's not an obligation, but it's still saving life. And saving life it oversees everything except idolatry, murder, and illicit sexual union.
And you said except idolatry. So if
yes, but you're not committing idolatry. You're sitting there giving blood. You're not praying to a false god.
You're
just giving your blood.
This is why you guys watch our show, because we can get into stuff like this. This is good. So if you go to this blood drive and you wear a T-shirt that says "I'm not a Christian," it's forbidden for me to worship idols, and then you want to give blood, that would be me. I would be saying, that's the only way I would go, because I don't want to give somebody else the impression that I agree with what they're doing and where they're at. So
just because you're giving blood, it means every single person who gives blood at that church is a member of that church or supports that church or that specific denomination of Christianity. Who are you kidding?
Trust me, if there's an Orthodox Jew living there, they wouldn't be there, period. That's the whole point.
But I don't know where he lives, and I don't know what his circumstances are. And if it's the only place you can go to give blood...
Where is there a commandment to give blood?
There's a commandment to save life. There's a commandment that says, choose life that you and your children may live.
But the commandment is for if there's a saving life situation where you're the only one who can do it, then by all means you need to get involved. But if you've got hundreds of people...
And what if his blood type is so rare...
Okay, so let's ask Brock that question.
I think now it's becoming a ridiculous degree of what if.
Okay, so
the point is that everybody acknowledges and recognizes that giving blood is saving life. Period.
True. But okay, Brock, what?
And I don't think he's committing idolatry.
No.
Again, I will remind you of the story in the Talmud where the guy goes to the spa, okay, and there are pagan idols all over the place. And they say, what are you going there worshiping? He says, I'm not worshiping them, they're worshiping me. They're there for my sake. They're creating, the beauty or whatever.
That's awesome.
And even though these are clearly idols,
an
image of their God, the image of their God that they pray to, you can't get more idolatrous than that.
Right.
He's not doing that.
Right.
We don't live in the Middle Ages where if a Jew walked into a church, they could have literally water thrown at them, recite the whatever it is that baptizes them, and then they were considered Catholic and had to stay Catholic for the rest of their lives on pain of death.
Right. You brought up a really good point.
This is not Middle Ages Europe.
You brought up a really good point. Brock, what is your blood type?
B positive, nothing rare.
Is that very rare? Or
it's not rare at all.
It's not rare at all. So there you go. So now here's the thing, Rabbi. Here's the thing. Difference between me and Rabbi knows this because we've talked about this before. I'm always going to side 100%, even on the oral traditions, on the oral law, everything with Orthodox Judaism. And Rabbi Federow, he sides with.
I don't wait.
He doesn't side. That's the whole point,
William. I resent that. That's not true.
Okay,
I don't side with other people. I side with what is right and true in my eyes, and in the eyes of the tradition as I understand it. And if the tradition says pikuach nefesh tocher hakol, then pikuach nefesh tocher hakol.
But you did say something that clarified something very important, I thought. And you said if Brock has a very rare blood type, then there's an excuse right there. But he just said he doesn't have a rare blood type. So now what is your opinion?
So if he doesn't give blood, you can guarantee me that nobody's life will be saved. Nobody's life will be extended because of his 1 pint of blood.
So
you can promise me that.
That's not the point. The point is...
it is the point.
Rabbi, I disagree.
I disagree. If he is saving a life, if the potential for saving life or extending life is there, he must give blood. And if the place that he has to go to give it is a church...
If he's the only one who can do it, sure. But if there's hundreds of people,
not the only one. He is part of a group of people who might be saving a group of people.
Right, I can see that too. But there's no obligation for him to do that anyway. So this is something we're clearly not going to see eye to eye on. Although we do have the same value for life, it's just there's different points of view on the other details.
And to me, if the saving of life oversees everything, then the saving of life oversees everything. He is not going there to worship the idols on the wall. Okay, he's going there to give blood.
Right.
And I really doubt seriously, if we're going to talk about a realistic viewpoint, that they're going to actually give the blood in the sanctuary of a church.
I totally agree. I said that earlier. Yep, I totally agree.
So highly unlikely, and you're creating all these what ifs that become ludicrous.
Well, actually, you created the what if by saying that if he had a rare blood type. That was your statement.
No, to me it becomes obvious at that point, but even the subtlety of not having a special blood type, giving blood saves life. You can't say it doesn't.
I totally agree with that. But there's no commandment that we're supposed to be giving blood, or a command that we should be.
No, the commandment is to save life.
If it applies to your scenario in the moment, not to go to, because otherwise everybody else would be commanded to go give blood.
When the blood bank says, "I'm sorry, we don't have enough blood. Go ahead and die," you go back in time.
Tell me how realistic that would be. It wouldn't be. That's not how it works. There's so many people here. You know what? There's so many people who give charity, even, let's just say, on the money factor. Let me ask you a question. Would it be good for him to donate his money to a church? Yes or no? In general, don't think too deeply. If you have to hesitate, there's your answer. That's my point. That's my only point.
He's not giving the money to a church.
That's
he's not saying, I support the church by giving blood.
Okay,
so you're saying when we have the mobile blood unit come to our parking lot, that everybody there is actually Jewish?
No, that's public property.
No, it's not. It's our private property.
No, my point. Okay, let me clarify. There's a difference between going to a synagogue and donating blood and going to a place of idol worship inside an actual church building sanctuary to donate blood. We're not talking about that.
You already said that they're not going to be in the sanctuary.
No, I said chances are they probably wouldn't do it anyway. And in that case, it's not a problem.
Therefore, your quote.
I totally agree. No, I totally agree with that. But you can't go into a sanctuary where there's idols. According to Orthodox Judaism, you can't do that. That's all I'm saying. So regardless of the situation, I mean, if you were the only one there and you saw okay, let me give you a good example. If you were walking on a Tuesday, walking down the road, and you saw some guy who was bleeding, and he walked into a church, and there was no cars in the parking lot, and you were the only one witnessing it, then yeah, go in there and save that guy's life. But if there's tons of cars in there, there's plenty of people who can take care of that for you. There's no need for you to do that.
We're not talking about going in there. We're talking about a pint of blood that could help somebody survive.
I think
you'd have no earthly idea how that pint of blood is going to be used.
True.
And we were explicitly told, choose life. So to me, right. They're not going to throw water on him and baptize him. They're not going to force him to kneel down in front of an altar. He's probably not even going to be in the room with the altars in it.
Right.
Okay. To me, it's a ludicrous.
Okay.
Ludicrous concept. Okay. Are we really that fearful of a church?
It's not about fearful.
Blatant idolatry.
It's not about fear.
That we have to teach people better to not give blood than to walk into a church because it's idolatry.
That statement is very vague.
Are we really that scared of them?
First of all, it's not about fear, and also
it isn't?
No, and also your
statement develops from.
Also, your statement is very. That statement is very vague. Okay, the specific details is what we're just like I gave you a specific scenario about a guy bleeding to death going into the church and there's no one there and you're the only one witnessing it. Then you need to get your hiney in there. I don't care where it's at and try to save this guy's life. But if there's other people there, there's no need for you. People know how to take care of other people. Now you're talking about donating blood to a place to where they have not just pints of blood. They've got hundreds of gallons of blood that they ship out all over the world. That is not your obligation. It's not your concern. If somebody comes to you, no, it's not about that. I mean,
no, of course, you just made it about.
Let me ask you a question. How many times have you gone and donated?
And if a person in your family ever needs blood, please, William, remember this conversation.
Again, that's a different.
Somebody somewhere may have chosen not to go into a place because it might have been idolatry.
That's a specific scenario. The statements you're making are very general. I'm talking about specific scenarios.
And in general, I am saying it is better to give blood, even if the place you have to give it is a church, because blood saves lives.
The best thing you said was if it's a rare blood type, because if it's not a rare blood type, then that means there's a sufficient amount of it.
I'm walking that back to say that in general, it's better to give blood than not to give blood, and it's better to give blood even if it means you have to give it in a church, because blood saves lives.
Okay.
Whether or not it's a specific kind or type or rare blood, it is better to save lives.
Okay, so tell me one thing. Do you still love me?
I always love you, but I always give a traditional answer.
Right.
And then if the reformer conservative movement disagree, I will come back and give the reasons why.
Gotcha. Okay. That's fine. And like I said, likewise, I'm going to do the same thing based on where I stand. And that's what makes our relationship good, because we can talk to each other, and when we're done, we can sit back and kick back and laugh. Brock, go ahead, buddy.
Well, if it helps, I just looked it up online. Apparently, B positive is one of the more important blood types because so many people are B positive.
Gotcha. Cool.
Honestly, be positive in our lives anyway.
Okay, so yeah, right. That's true. So my advice would be go somewhere else to donate the blood. You can drive 30 miles, go to a hospital, and donate it there. That's my advice. I would never go into a church unless it was an emergency.
I'm not saying it isn't better to go somewhere else. What I'm saying is just because it's idolatry doesn't mean you can't give blood. Giving blood is the most important thing.
If it's necessary, correct. That's all I'm saying.
It is always necessary.
No, it's not. Otherwise, there would be a commandment for us to go and give blood.
You just said, oh yeah, back in the days where they didn't even understand how to do a transfusion, you're supposed to have a place there that says give blood. Come on, William.
I gotcha.
That's what I would call disingenuous.
Okay. All right. We'll move forward. We're actually past an hour, but man, I feel like I feel like I'm stoked on caffeine or something. So, Rabbi, how you doing?
Must be.
Oh,
Piss me off.
Oh, no, that doesn't. You better get your butt down here.
By the way, now there are 53 people watching, and they all agree with me.
That's fine. That's good. That's to me. It's like, you know what? I love you no matter what, so it doesn't matter.
I love you too, no matter what, and you're wrong.
What did you say last week? You said something about I'm open-minded, but you're wrong.
Yes, and let's not be so open-minded that our brains fall out either.
Hey, that's true. Okay, Brock. Thank you, buddy.
Yes, I know we're late, but I have to go back to something that's important to me.
No, that's fine. Take your time. I'm not in any rush. So.
Okay, no, wait a minute.
Brock,
Let me go
thank you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yeah, Brock, I hope that got all your questions answered. Okay.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Did you? My phone was breaking up. Did you answer the question about the God of Islam?
Going to do that now. I found the comment. In fact, stay on the phone just for a second.
Where is it?
Actually, I see. There's no time marker, so I can't tell you. But I could say there's a Zachariah said, ask Rabbi Stuart Federow whether it is avodah zarah, which is idol worship, for a Jew to convert to Islam. That's the right question. Don't ask me.
Well, it's the wrong question because it's not the only issue.
Right, but that ties in. That's
the
in
issue
line
is
with
not
what
just
Brock was
idolatry. The other issue is it a correct religion? Is it within Torah? And the answer is no, it's not.
That's what Brock is asking. Is it the same? Christianity,
Absolutely
Islam,
not.
The same God? That's what Brock's asking. Okay, Brock, got you, buddy. We'll talk on that now. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna hop off the phone so let you guys talk.
Okay, thanks, bro. Thank you, man.
You mean let us? You're gonna get off the phone and let us yell at each other.
Hey, you know what though? That is okay. Because you know what? Here's the thing. One thing I love about you and about our relationship is, we don't care if we disagree. We express these type of things when you have to.
It's like the minister and priest on my radio show. We can scream and yell at each other, but in the end, we love each other.
There you go.
Yes.
All right, good deal. Okay, so two things.
No, Judaism is not the same as Islam, and Judaism and Islam are not the same as Christianity, and Christianity is not the same as Islam or Judaism.
Gotcha.
There are three very distinct religions with three very distinct value systems with three very distinct views of God.
Do me a favor.
To the point.
I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you two questions, and I want you to, if you can, you may not be able to, but if you can, please simply answer yes or no.
To what?
To the questions I'm going to ask you. There's only two.
Okay.
Is Christianity idol worship?
Yes.
Think about this, is Islam idol worship? That's my point.
I would have to say the word probably, and here's what I mean.
I'm good with that. Go ahead. Explain.
Okay. Here's what I would mean. Okay. Islam is just as strong as Judaism is in terms of absolute monotheism.
Okay.
But that is not the only issue. For example, if I take, Diet Coke and I say, this is God. Now there's only one cup. Nobody else's cup is really God. This cup, this one cup is God. Okay? Or this microphone. See this microphone? It's the only microphone in the world that's actually God. Okay?
Okay.
Well, I believe in only one God, so therefore it's okay. It's the same thing as everything else, right? Wrong. I can believe in one God But if the God I believe in, that's one and indivisible, and is just as strong a belief in monotheism, of absolute monotheism, it's only this one microphone, it doesn't mean I believe in the same God. So Islam, in their concept of God, their ideology of their Allah, no, is not our God.
Okay.
Okay. Furthermore, the Quran, in its view of the Hebrew Scriptures, is that, and I forgot exactly how they word it, because I haven't read this stuff in a long time, but the way they word it basically is something to the effect of, well, the Jews got it wrong. Okay? They didn't really understand. They didn't see Allah and Islam in the pages of their own scriptures. Kind of like Christianity says that the Jews don't see Jesus in the pages of our own scriptures. Okay? They'll say we got it mostly right, but there are passages in the Quran that disagree with our scriptures. Okay? And they'll say we got the story wrong. Okay? It's not just the oneness of God, the indivisibility of God that distinguishes God. It is also our view of God, how we understand God.
Okay.
And the oneness, start over. The Muslim view of the one God Allah is not the same view that we have of God. I would ask a Muslim, show me in the pages of the Quran or Hadith where it says that God loves us. Where is the talk about the love of Allah? Where does it talk about Allah commanding us to love each other and to love thy neighbor as thyself? Okay, where in the Quran is there 10 commandments, one of which says thou shalt not murder? Okay, to my knowledge, it's not there. To my experience in having conversations, interfaith dialogues with Muslims, it's not there. You know, they may say, they may kind of get around it or whatever, but there's no explicit commandment, okay, or statement of Allah's love for humanity or his people or that kind of thing. Whereas Judaism, it's all over the Hebrew Scriptures.
Gotcha.
Okay. What is our explicit relationship with God? We love God. Islam is to obey God, is to submit to God. Judaism has the idea of wrestling with God. What does Israel mean? It means he who wrestles with God.
Ah.
Okay. When Jacob's name is when Jacob's name is changed to Israel, it's after wrestling with an angel of God. Okay, in Judaism, we do not submit to God. Okay, we align our own will. It's an act of my will to align my will with the will of God. Okay, it's not giving in or giving up. There are major theological differences between Judaism and Islam, and obviously between Judaism and Christianity or Islam and Christianity, that distinguish each of our religions. Okay, we're not the same. The Jewish idea of absolute free will and that we make our own destiny is contradicted by the very strong concept in Islam of fate. Okay, that it's the will, everything that happens is the will of God. So if a person gets sick, don't heal them because that may not be the will of God.
Right.
Well, so there are major distinctions to be made. It's not just God is one and indivisible, and their view of their Allah is that Allah is one and indivisible. It's how we perceive and how we understand and how we relate to God that also must be taken into consideration. Okay, is it explicitly an idol? If my image and understanding of God is a false understanding and image, it becomes idolatrous, even if it's not idolatry. If it becomes of or pertaining to idolatry, even if it's not idolatry, it is idolatrous. You see the distinction I'm making, William?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that would have to be how I would look at it. I think that I've done an enormous amount of work with Christianity, not like some other rabbis that you interview, but I've done my own.
Right.
And it pales into what I need to do about Islam, but in conversations with Muslims, in conversations of interfaith dialogue with imams and scholars in Islam, this is the conclusion I've come to. You know, when there are passages and aspects of the Quran that contradicts the narrative as we understand it in the Hebrew Scriptures.
Right.
And of course, I'm going to take the Hebrew Scriptures over it. And no, I am not going to say that Muhammad is God's prophet.
Right.
All right.
Agreed.
Now, I hope that answered his question.
I think it probably did, because it certainly clarified a lot for me. And I don't think that he asked anything else that you didn't already clarify, so that's cool.
Well,
yeah.
All right. But I know you're in a hurry, but I want to touch on something that's very important.
You go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay, in the live chat, Zechariah says, we shouldn't mock Christians because most of them are good people and sincerely want the truth. Yeah, that's absolutely true. There are a lot of good people who are Christians, and they sincerely want the truth. But if they come at me, okay, I will do everything in my power to stop them, because I don't want them to leave me, who is all nice and sweet and let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya, and then go down the block to someone who is also Jewish but who may not know scriptures as well, and who therefore gets sucked in by the Christian missionaries.
Right.
So if I do a little mocking of Christians, tough luck, Zechariah. Live with it. Okay, second thing. Further down, Zechariah says, don't forget that the only people pushing the Jewish Bible to worldwide corners are the Christians. Not true.
That is.
The Christians are not pushing the Jewish Bible.
Agreed.
They're pushing the Christian interpretation of the Jewish Bible, and the interpretation is so varied and in contradiction to the Jewish Bible,
right,
that it is as if the quote-unquote Jewish Bible they are pushing, as you put it, to worldwide corners isn't the Jewish Bible. It's
totally
their
agreed.
Perversion of the Hebrew Scriptures.
Right.
It's how they see their Jesus in the pages of our Hebrew Scriptures. It's their attack on us that says we have a veil over our minds that prevent us seeing the truth in our own Hebrew Scriptures.
Yaakov says, everyone is bad? No, there's just some hot topics and we got to discuss them. So,
and I'm not going to back away, because some of them are nice. Okay, I'm not going to. I don't intend to mock Christianity, but you better believe I disagree with it on very basic levels, and I see it as basically unbiblical in its most basic elements of belief.
Now,
and John Wiseman says, does being a light mean that I have to take crap or allow for people I respect to take crap? One of my great joys in life is giving it back with the exact same force I have it thrown at me. So, you know something? I'm sick and tired of the Jews being the servant for God who suffers at the hands of good Christians.
Agreed.
And then have good Christians tell us, oh, we should love the Christians.
Right, agreed. Just to clarify to some of you guys out there, I've had the pleasure of being in Rabbi Federow's audience for a long time, and I've asked him a lot of questions off the air, and something a lot of you may not be aware of is that he is subject on a continuous basis to Christians and Jews for Jesus people constantly battering him and sneaking in and trying to disrupt their service. And so if you sense any I won't even say hostility, it's not really hostility, it's more of a clarity from Rabbi Federow, it's for a really
it hostility. I don't care.
Really good reason. Because the people who...
You know how many times in my synagogue I've had Christians, good Christians, trying to take over my pulpit to preach to the people in my pews?
Exactly. And you wonder why he's so compassionate about what he teaches. That's why. And many of you don't know that. So hopefully that will give you guys some more understanding on why he's so...
growing up in Springfield, Missouri, the buckle on the Bible Belt, the international headquarters of the Assemblies of God Church, the place where Jerry Falwell got his bachelor's degree from, was an interesting experience growing up. and part of my emotionality, which does not serve me well. I agree, I understand that. And some of my passion, which does not always serve me well, I agree and understand that, is still a very direct result of those experiences of having been missionized so very often, even as middle school and high school, especially high school. And I don't mean missionaries like, oh, you know, I don't mean people throwing pennies at me to see if I go running after the pennies because the Jews love their money. Yes, that did happen to me. I'm talking about people who, out of their goodness of their heart, sat me down to show me Hebrew scriptures to try to convert me. Okay, so yeah, all of this may be bound up in my personal experiences, but I make no apologies for it. None.
Good.
And I'm really tired. I'm really tired of the Jews being Uncle Tom Jews.
Battered.
Okay, and court Jews. Go look up the term court Jew if you have to.
Okay.
You know, and therefore don't give a strong answer to the Christian community. And I get flack from the Jews because of the strength with which I will respond. Because they want us to all love each other and hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
Right. Okay, Rabbi, do me a favor. There's a guy on here named J. Prakash Taylor. It says Rabbi several times. It says, Rabbi Federow, could you get to my question? Now, I scanned back. I didn't see any questions. I saw a statement that claimed that Zoroastrianism, did I say that right? Was the very first one to come up with the concept of a Messiah and a dying something or another.
Wait, who was? What was this?
If you scroll all the way down the bottom comments, move up about a dozen or so. Let me see if I can find it again. Maybe about 15.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Keep
9,
going.
10,
Just look for
11,
J.
12.
Prakash Taylor.
Yeah, Rabbi Federow, could you get to my question? What was his question?
I didn't see a question, but I did see a comment, and it had to do with Zoroastrianism. And it says that they were the first ones to come up with the whole New Testament idea. I'm paraphrasing big time. On
my radio show with a minister and priest, we would have on occasion religions, people representing other religions, and Houston has a Zoroastrian place of worship. There is a sizable enough Zoroastrian community to have their own place of worship and support it. And we had a Zoroastrian a number of times on our radio show.
So how valid are they?
What does that mean?
Meaning that his comment was that they were the very first. What I'm paraphrasing what I saw.
They had enormous influence on Christianity and other elements in the pagan world that in turn influence Christianity. And there's also an influence, believe it or not, in Jewish sources, and I'll show you exactly where it is.
Okay.
Go to Isaiah 45, and you know the verse, you know the quote I'm talking about. Isaiah 45, verses 5 through 7.
I don't have the screen up. Actually, if you'll give me, go ahead and talk about it.
Oh, here, let me tell it to you then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do it that way. That's good.
Isaiah 45, verses 5 through 7. I am the eternal, there is none else, there is no God besides me. I girded you, though you did not know me, that you may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none besides me. I am the eternal, there is none else. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the eternal, do all these things.
I create evil. Think about that, guys.
Yes. Yep. But it's also the I form the light and create darkness.
Right.
Because, and I'm not going to try to get everything correct about Zoroastrianism, but by and large, Zoroastrian has the belief in two gods, the god of light who fights against the god of darkness. Okay, and the god of darkness is like a devil image. Okay, and then Isaiah comes along, and in direct response to Zoroastrian religion, renounces it, and God says, I form the light and I also create the darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the eternal, do all of these things, as opposed to Ahura Mazda and can't think of the other guy's name, the bad one. If you give me a while, I'll think of the name. It'll take too long. At any rate, Zoroastrians will say, oh, it's really one God and two manifestations. Okay, they can excuse everything just like the Hindus will too. But I form the light and create darkness is a direct attack on the Zoroastrian concept of a god of light and a god of darkness fighting each other. And so it didn't get sucked into Judaism. Judaism responded against it.
Wow.
Okay.
Yep.
So
that's amazing.
But in Christianity, you clearly get this idea with the devil versus God. Okay. God is light, devil is darkness. They fight against each other for human soul, the whole bit. And Zoroastrians will take credit for that. They'll also say, image of Statue of Liberty with the rays of light coming out of its head that creates like a crown. That's a Zoroastrian symbol. Zoroastrianism does a lot with fire. That the image of fire is a religious symbol to them. Okay. Yeah. So I know what he's talking about in terms of Zoroastrianism, but it really got heavily into Christianity. And in my personal opinion, I'm prejudiced, of course, not so much with Judaism.
Gotcha.
Not even close. Is that what he was talking about?
That's the only thing I could find. And I'm looking here to see if he comments again, but I don't see any further comments. So, yeah. Wow.
Okay, so it's got to be before here. I don't even see anything by him. So.
Yeah. Interesting.
Unless he had two names that he was running, didn't realize.
Right. No, I think so. Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, this has definitely been one of the most dynamic episodes we've had. And what better way to celebrate the 50th golden episode, right?
Right, absolutely.
Amen.
I didn't see any other comment by him.
I didn't either.
Oh, here it is. Zoroastrianism claims that they were the first religion to come up with the concept of the Messiah, universal recognition of one God. When the Messiah comes, resurrection of the dead, living forever. Zoroastrianism predates Christianity by about 500 years, but Jeremiah, Isaiah predate that period, so you'd have a hard time making me see that Zoroastrianism came up with these ideas. Okay?
Right.
I mean, Isaiah clearly speaks of Isaiah 11, the universal recognition of God as God, all the good things, the utopian ideals that happen when the Messiah comes. You've got other places in the prophets that I think precede Zoroastrianism with resurrection of the dead, including in Isaiah. Okay. Let me see if I can find this quote real fast. What would I look for? Probably body. Okay, and let's see.
Found anything?
I can't find it fast enough.
Okay.
Maybe it's not Jeremiah.
And what was the general idea?
It's a statement. It's a clear statement of resurrection.
In Jeremiah.
You really want to wait? What?
In Jeremiah, you said?
Is it? No, I thought it was Isaiah, but maybe
okay.
it is Jeremiah.
Okay. No, I was just I thought I overheard you say. Let's see.
Let's see. Give me a second because I can find it pretty quick.
Okay. I'm looking too. Okay, Isaiah 26:19, maybe.
Try William with
try 26:19, Isaiah. See if that's it.
What is it?
Isaiah 26:19.
What does it say?
I'll tell you in a second. 19. There we go. Oh shoot! Come on, back up. 26:19. The dead men shall live, together with the dead bodies shall they rise.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's Isaiah.
26:19.
And 26, I think, is still considered first Isaiah, and so it's about the time of the destruction of the temple. I think that precedes Zoroastrianism, but I'd have to check that out. There's a much stronger verse. Okay.
On the same context?
Yeah.
Genesis 3,
but I don't
6. No.
Hold it a minute. Just wait a minute. Give me a second.
Daniel 12:2.
Let's
try that one. Where you go?
26:19. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, Isaiah 26:19, correct.
Your dead men shall live together with my dead body shall they arise. Awake and sing, you that dwell in the dust, for your dew is as the dew of herbs, and the earth shall cast out the dead. Okay, and again, I think that's preceding Zoroastrianism.
Here's another one too. Daniel. Daniel, how old is Daniel? Is pretty old or no?
Well, no, Daniel is young. Daniel is
okay.
Late, like 100, 200 years after the destruction of the temple.
Okay, so
400, 500, somewhere on there. If 586 BCE was the destruction of the temple, you're talking about,
right?
Let's say 100 years later, something like that. That's okay. Ezekiel. I don't remember the dating of Ezekiel. Ezekiel's talking about after the destruction of the temple. Therefore prophesy and say to them, says the eternal God, behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. You can't get clearer than that about resurrection.
Right.
But I don't remember exactly with Ezekiel the dating of him and how it compares to Zoroastrianism.
Okay,
so I'm not quite sure I agree with his statement about Zoroastrianism being the first to claim resurrection or the Messiah coming, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And by the way, how do you know that Zoroastrianism wasn't influenced by Judaism? Zoroastrianism is the latest, let's say, is 600 BCE,
right?
And Judaism goes back 500. I'm bad at math.
That's about right, actually. You know what's funny is David Solomon is a great Jewish historian. And he had mentioned one time, he said, he goes, Judaism had their Great Awakening, and it was probably 500 plus years later when all these other things came up with their new awakenings. And Judaism preceded all of them from what this particular historian was talking about. So around the 500 plus year marker. So very interesting for sure. So, well, cool. Well, I'll tell you what, I guess it's a good wrap-up point. This is probably the longest show we've had in quite some time.
I know, way too long.
No, I don't think it was way too long at all. I thought it was awesome.
Zoroastrianism enters recorded history in the 5th century BCE, which would be the 400s. Okay, so we're talking, everything we quoted Isaiah and everything else is preceding Zoroastrianism. They may want to take their religion back before that, but it enters recorded history then. Let's see.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Mystery
Ahura Mazda and Angra Mainyu.
Mystery said
probably butchering the pronunciation, but you get my point. So
Rabbi Missouri Reaper said every show should be this long.
Well, you're kind.
I'm sorry. Mystery said that. Yeah, said every show should be this long.
Thank you. You're very kind.
At least that's funny. Cool show, fun, almost like yeshiva on meth.
Come on, it says, "Mike, come forth with my dead." Oh, okay. I see what I was doing wrong.
That's a good one. Okay.
I did my search into a different translation. If you don't do the right translation, you're not going to find it.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Oh, that's funny. Hey, Mystery, you bring an espresso machine, Mystery, and we'll use it. He said, "I know."
I think Williams had too much coffee already.
Yeah, maybe. Well, it would have to be from early this morning. I don't know why I'm so wired right now, because this has been. Actually, this has been a long day since about 6 a.m. So, but I feel really pumped right now.
Yeah.
So
it'll be a while before I go to sleep. Let me tell you.
Red Bull. I don't know about that. You know what's funny? This is not the show topic, but I actually met a guy one time who I think he was working at Home Depot or something, Rabbi, and you could tell in his shirt he had a bag like some sort of a surgical bag. And I asked him, I said, what happened to you? I mean, he was a younger guy, maybe 35-ish or so. And he said he was drinking like Red Bulls like all the time. And he said it actually messed up his intestines, and he had to have this thing to whatever. So
I believe it.
That's bad stuff, man. I mean, having one every once in a while is not a big deal, but whew.
All right. Further down, J. Prakash Taylor says, Rabbi Federow, Zoroastrianism claims that their religion is 3,500 years old and that Judaism took the concept of tzitzit from Zoroastrianism.
Wow,
I
see that.
Well, no, absolutely. Since they make the claim, we should just give up and say they're right. I hope you detect my sarcasm.
Completely.
I don't care. I don't care what another religion says.
Right.
I only care what Judaism says. They can believe whatever they want about whatever they want. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Right.
Okay, and if they want to say they're 3,500 years old when historians would strongly disagree with them, they can say what they want.
I mean, this is like Christianity has their claims.
I can prove
right?
that my religion is 3,500 years old.
Right.
Okay, archaeologists find stuff that far back. Okay, the Merneptah stele, which says, Merneptah was I forgot already, the king of some nation. And he wrote the stele says, Merneptah, is all powerful because Israel has been destroyed. Well, guess what? We're still here and nobody even knows who Merneptah is.
Right.
So,
right.
These things go way back
that's
before.
That's a great point. Very good point. For
so
sure.
I don't care what they say. You can, am I supposed to care what Christianity says about Christianity too? Right. No. So why would I care about what Zoroastrianism says about Zoroastrianism?
Right. Yep, very good. Well, Rabbi, it's been a great ride. Yeah.
It's our best shows when you and I argue with each other.
You know what? It brings, I think what it is that because, I mean, when we always agree on everything, it's like the topics usually end pretty quickly. But when we don't, we really diagnose so many different vantage points that people need to actually be exposed to. And so I like that. I'm cool with that. I'm very cool with that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What do you mean, yeah?
I'm trying to read, yeah.
Oh, okay. By the way,
adrenaline comes from good discussions. Lori Cash. Thank you, Lori. I think you're right.
Lori's a great, faithful watcher. She's watching all the time. Hey, by the way, Mitch said the clock still says 6:13.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Hey, just to give you an idea of my generic Photoshop skills, that time actually said like 7 minutes and 29 seconds originally, and I used I used GIMP, which is a free software like whatever the popular photo editing stuff is.
I've never even heard of that.
GIMP 2.0 or 3.0. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I actually use that and actually changed the numbers just because it's like a Judaism number. So,
William Ezra Adler wants to know, how do you call in from Germany?
1-800 numbers, right? Aren't 800 numbers available anywhere?
I don't know. There are some 800 numbers that are only available within the United States. I don't know.
This is actually at 855. Now that I think about it, maybe you're right. Okay, so
he should still be able to use a VoIP, voice over internet protocol type telephone to call that number. Shouldn't he be able to?
I would think so. I'll tell you what,
Ezra, I hate to say this, but I think your best bet is on your end is to investigate it, because I'm not sure enough. I don't know.
Totally agreed. Okay, Jake. Let's just touch this real fast. Jay Praker-ish Taylor says, Rabbi Federow, the Talmud mentions that the head of the Jewish community in Babylonia, it keeps rotating on me, was wearing a gartel, and so was the Persian king. What is he talking about?
Well, that just means every single thing there is to know about Judaism must have come from Persia.
Which means to me is who knows the Persian king wasn't wearing it because the Jews were. So just because it says they were both doing it doesn't mean anything, right?
I think J. Prakash Taylor is really reaching now. But go ahead, do your thing, whatever.
Okay, Will, can you please check? Hold on,
let's see.
Man, there's so many comments.
William has a hat, and the Egyptian's king used to wear hats. So I guess you must be an Egyptian king, a pharaoh.
Have a look at the link.
At the link, and let me know if it would be addressed as I am in Australian.
Okay, Let me look at my messages real fast. Okay, you're going to have to send me another message because I get literally tons and tons of messages, and the more that come in, they keep dropping down, just like these questions do on YouTube chat. So if you want me to see something fresh, like right now, you're going to have to copy, paste it, and resend it to me again so it shows up on the top, because otherwise I'm not going to see it, and I doubt very seriously I could even find it. So if you want me to, please just send it to me again, and I will see if I can follow along. Okay, so.
Grant, if you have a place that recycles trash, okay, there is something to be said for saving trees. God, I sound like a liberal. Isn't that disgusting? But Grant, if there's a place you can recycle books, whole books, okay, that'd be a good place to take your Christian Bibles and Christian scriptures and stuff.
Now, keep in mind he said recycle, not resell. Recycle.
No, recycle, like where they mush it up and make new books, new paper.
You don't want to give them away. You don't want to donate them to the bookstore and get credit for it. It's idolatry. You need to destroy them or give them to somebody else who will and reproduce.
William, have you ever tried to sell books to like half-price books anymore?
No. Why? What's up with that?
They'll give you pennies.
Really?
They don't give you horrible. It's just they're so overfilled with books. And the world is going further and further away from books. As a matter of fact, they're going away from the written word and they're relying on videos.
Right.
But even half-price books is bringing 20 boxes and they'll say, okay, here's $1. I mean, it's really, you can't. Best bet is to recycle, which is what he said.
Okay, I just got my message. The person I just reached out to, Elena Lee. And by the way, Elena, we've got several shows on Psalm 110 with Rabbi Tovia Singer on YouTube. Go to my channel and you can search YouTube. You could search Tanakh Talk videos and actually search Psalm 110 and it'll pull up a few videos for you.
Yeah, it's also on my website.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, whatjewsbelieve.org. And also, if you don't have the app, I'm telling you guys, you're crazy if you don't download this app. Jewish Mission Control. It's available on Apple and iPhone, and it's got tons of bullet point questions that Christians try to use to prove their theory. And you can click on them, and there's all these answers right there at your fingertips. I'm pretty certain Psalm 110 is probably in that lineup as well, Elena. So with that said, let me read this paragraph in case I need to identify something. Okay. Quoted by the Messianics, that would be awesome. Okay, so basically she's wanting us to clarify what Psalm 110 is referring to. If you want to touch base on it real quick, let's take another 10 minutes and just no more questions.
Yeah, and I want to tell Mark, I have my best notes, not just pro Hebrew Scriptures, but also analyzing, shall we say, the New Testament. So the Bible I carry around is going to have both the Hebrew Scriptures and the Christian New Testament in it, because I get asked questions about the New Testament as often as I get questions about the Hebrew Scriptures. So, Mark, I understand what you're saying. I do.
Grant, thank you. That's very kind of you. He says, Grant Dunn says, Rabbi Federow, my mom, Cassie, says hello, and thank you, Rabbi and William, for the show. You're very welcome. Okay, so let's take the remaining, I'm going to call it the remaining 10 minutes. We may go longer, but maybe not. On Psalm 110. Rabbi, tell us what Psalm 110 is talking about for our friend Elena.
All right, well, if you read a Christian Bible, it'll say, a Psalm of David, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. Okay, first thing, most of the time when you see this in print, it's going to have a capital L for the first word Lord. The Lord said to my Lord, and you're going to also have a capital L for the second time the word Lord appears. And you have to remember that Hebrew has no capital letters. So the fact that they capitalize the L in Lord means that they're already interpreting it to be about God, as if God said to God. And if you look at the Hebrew, it's not what it says. What it says is that the eternal, the four-letter name for God, the eternal said unto my master, okay, Adoni, not Adonai, okay, but Adoni, my master. God said to my master, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. So what's the difference? The difference is that whoever wrote this is saying that God spoke to King David and said sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool.
Okay, I've got it on screen now. I was unable to earlier, but I've actually got it on screen right now. So I'm going to switch to Hebrew.
Good.
So that way you can actually...
Let me...
Okay, so I'm going to highlight the Hebrew, because right now you see the
thank you.
Lord
That's perfect.
Said unto my Lord. Notice they're, like Rabbi said, they're both capital letters on the first letter, which means, you would think Jesus said to God, or God, whatever.
Yeah, God said to Jesus,
right?
or whatever.
But look here. Here's the thing. Here's what Rabbi's saying. Okay, when you look at the Hebrew, okay,
right.
Okay, it's here's the sacred name right here. Yud Kei Vav Kei. And of course I mispronounced it.
The first one.
No, okay, yeah, the first one, right?
Right.
It says La Adoni. So Hashem to Adoni, not Hashem to Hashem. Not you.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And see, but the English makes it look like it's Hashem said to Hashem.
Because they capitalize the L of Lord to lead you to believe it's God said to God.
Right on.
Okay, now there's another aspect that must be understood. In the way you have it right now up on the screen, you'll see the number 110, and then you'll see the number 1 that shows us the first verse of Psalm 110.
Right here. Okay.
And then it says Le Da.
Right.
Then it says Le David Mizmor. That means normally translated as to David a psalm.
Okay. Mizmor. Right. Mizmor.
Right.
The second word. Right. Oops. Why did I do that?
But the problem is that the Lamed, the first letter of the first verse, thank you, you accented it, whatever that's called.
Right.
Okay. The Lamed doesn't necessarily mean to David, of David, like a possession.
Well, of would be like, no. I'm confused. Okay. I see what you're saying.
No, you're right. The Lamed can be to David. It could also mean for David.
Right. To and to for. Right.
Right. So if it means to David, it wasn't written by David. It was dedicated to David by somebody else who said, God said to my master, who was King David.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Right.
Or, okay, it was written for David. David says, hey, you're good at writing songs. Write the lyrics to a new song that I'm going to use in the temple. Huh. Okay. And the guy says, okay, I will write it for you. And he says, Ne'um Hashem la'adoni, okay, rest until the days when I will make your enemies your footstool. So the point is that this is a psalm written by someone who works for David, who is dedicated the psalm to David, and about David, he writes that God said to David, my master. People forget that the word Lord is like Old English, and it's like the lords and ladies of Old England. And the lord of the estate was the master of the estate. Okay, as a matter of fact, we use the word Mr., which comes from the word master. Okay? And the Lord was the master of the estate. It doesn't mean he's divine.
Right.
Okay. Not everybody who was a lord and lady in the courts of England, they weren't believed to be God.
Right.
Okay. Getting dry mouth. Wait a minute.
Okay. So this is a good switch over. We got 7 minutes before 2 hours. Let's follow a question I just found up by Jamie. It says, Rabbi, why does Jesus say to his followers in the Gospels of Luke that they should sell their robes and buy swords?
Jamie, it is. Look, there were 4 political types. I don't know what else to call them in the days of Jesus, and you know what I'm talking about. There were the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Essenes, and the Zealots. And people want to look at them now, 2,000 years later, as if they are, each one is separate from the other. That's like saying you can't have a liberal Republican or you can't have a conservative Democrat. It's a spectrum. There's a wide range of things. Just because a person was a Pharisee doesn't mean they could not also have had zealot tendencies. And it is clear, I think, clear to me, maybe others will disagree, that Jesus was a Pharisee. what is the one thing that Josephus says about the Pharisees that distinguishes them from the other movements? And that is that the Pharisees believed in resurrection.
Right.
Well, did Jesus believe in resurrection?
Yeah, right.
So therefore, he was squarely in the realm of the Pharisees. Also, Jesus liked the Pharisees. Remember, the Pharisees were the precursors of the rabbis. And we'll get about that in a minute, too, as far as that goes. It's real simple. Okay. But a person wasn't only one and not the other three. He could be in one, but have leanings towards the other groups, too. And I think Jesus was clearly a Pharisee, but I think he had a tendency to be a little bit zealot as well. And what were the zealots? The zealots were the group who were for open rebellion against Rome.
Right.
Okay. Judas Iscariot is sometimes understood. Judas Iscariot is sometimes understood as Judas Ish Sicariot. That Judas was a man of the Sicarii. Sicarii were the assassins for the zealot community. They would have a long, thin knife that they could walk by you, stick in your ribs all the way to the heart, pull it out, and keep walking in one motion. And by the time the guy dropped, the guy would be 3 or 4 paces away from him and get away with it. Okay? So when Jesus says, okay, as long as you've known me, haven't you had everything that you need, your script and your money and whatever else? And they say, oh, yeah, we've always had what we need. And he says, now I'm telling you, go get your money and go get your script and go buy a sword. Because I think Jesus had zealot tendencies. Okay. Remember when Jesus is shown the money?
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay. And he says, well, whose picture is on the money? And they say, the emperor in Rome. And he says, well, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, but give to God what belongs to God. And people will say, oh, what a great comment. Really? According to religious people, exactly what belongs to God?
Okay.
Everything.
Right.
Everything belongs to God.
That's a good point.
So when Jesus says, give to God what is God's, and give to the Pharaoh, give to the Caesar what belongs to the Caesar, he's saying, don't give anything to the Caesar because it all belongs to God.
That's a
so
good point.
I think he had a little bit of zealot in him, and so when he says go buy a sword, he's realizing we're getting close to the actual rebellion against Rome.
Right.
And that's indicating a little bit of zealot in him, so he's not just a Pharisee. And remember something: the Sadducees were the temple group, but the temple was destroyed. They lost out. The Essenes were the lunatic fringe who went out in the middle of the desert, okay, who violated the first commandment of be fruitful and multiply because they were ascetics, okay. They were what's the word? Didn't believe in having sexual relations.
Okay. Oh yeah, they were.
There's a word for that. Celibate. Okay, and the only way you could get in was not to be born into it, but they had to convert you into it.
Right.
They were the lunatic fringe.
Right.
That's why when Christians say, oh, look at all the writings of the Essenes and how Christian it was, but the Essenes weren't normal Jews. They weren't normative Judaism. They were the lunatic fringe of Judaism. They took themselves out in the desert and got away from the public. Al tifrosh min hatzibur. Don't separate yourself from the community. They separated themselves from the community. Okay? They died out because they couldn't reproduce themselves because they were celibate. Okay, who am I missing? The Zealots were squashed like bugs when they did go into open rebellion against Rome. The only surviving group of those groups were the Pharisees because that's the group that God wanted to survive.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So therefore, if the Pharisees were the only ones left, then obviously they're the ones that would have grown into Judaism. All of Judaism is rabbinic. And they were the precursors of the rabbis.
Right.
So Jesus telling a parable is kind of a Pharisaic kind of thing to do. Okay? the style of Jesus' teaching was a Pharisaic kind of style. You know, if you really stop and think about it, Democrats are going to have more arguments with Democrats than they are with Republicans. Why? Because they're not even going to bother arguing with a Republican. They're just off the wall. Republicans are going to have more conversations and disagreements with other Republicans than they are with Democrats. Why? Because Democrats they're not going to waste their time. Democrats are off the wall. You argue more within your own group than you argue with those outside your group. Jesus was constantly arguing with the Pharisees.
Yeah, right.
I think that's another indicator that Jesus himself was a Pharisee, but I also believe he had zealot tendencies. We've talked about this before. It's come up before.
Yep, totally.
Yep. So,
well, you know what? Let's call that a wrap. It is exactly 2 hours and 36 seconds. That is
wow.
That is a great stop.
Well, so, you're long-winded tonight.
So is this going to start being a 2-hour show now?
No, definitely not.
Well, if it did, I'm not sure I would complain too much. Apparently, according to the viewers, I don't think they would either.
If they've got questions, we've got answers, you know?
We'll try. If we don't, we'll find the answers. That's for sure.
That's also true.
Yeah, very good. Well, Rabbi, thank you so much, man. I had such a blast with you tonight. And
me too. And by the way, you're wrong. I'm right.
I'm cool with that. But I'm not cool with you not being here. You need to get your hiney up here as soon as you can.
Maybe sooner than you think. We'll talk about that later, dear.
Hey, I like it. So if you guys want to, if you want to support what we're doing here at TORAH Talk, you can go to TORAHTalk.com. Look for the donate button at the very bottom. It looks like a PayPal button. You click that. You can donate $10 million. And I'll never bother you again. Or patreon.com/TORAH Talk for those long-termers. So anyway, so looking forward to some great things. And Rabbi, thank you. Again, if you guys don't have Rabbi Federow's book, you need to get it. It's really a juicy one. It's real easy read, about 3/4 inch thick, half-inch thick, whatever. Judaism and Christianity, a contrast.
Berber of Seville, that's so funny.
That's it right there. Judaism and Christianity, a contrast by Rabbi Stuart Federow. And then go to Jewish Mission Control, great website, and also download, I got it backwards, download Jewish Mission Control on your Android or iPhone, but go to whatjewsbelieve.org to find just a really awesome resource for a constant click-away answers for the arguments to Christianity. So, Rabbi, thank you again. Love you, man.
My pleasure.
It's been a great show, and look forward to seeing you again, same time, same place next week. Shavuot Tov, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in, and we love you. We'll see you again on the other side. Shalom, shalom. Take care, everyone.